Today at the Dana Point Resort in Dana Point, California, Greatest Sports Legends host Reggie Jackson meets with the premier alpine skier in American sports history, Phil Mahre. In his career on the slopes, Mahre has captured 3 World Cup titles and 2 Olympic medals, and his aggressive racing style has made him one of the most popular figures in the world of skiing. Phil Mahre, a legend for all times.
Gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it over the sand goal. Havlicek stole the ball.
Starr begins the count. Takes the snap. He's got the quarterback thinking he's in for the touchdown. The Green Bay Packers are going to be world champions.
Affirmed under a left-hand whip. Alliar on the outside driving. Affirmed and Alliar heads apart.
Here's the pitch by Downing. Swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
No one has done more for the sport of skiing in America than Phil Mahre. As an amateur, Phil won 3 consecutive World Cup titles from 1981 to 1983, becoming the first U.S. skier to win alpine racing's most coveted prize. He also captured a gold medal at the 1984 Olympic Games, one of only 2 American men ever to win Olympic gold in skiing competition. As a professional, Phil continued to dominate his opponents, helping his sport become more popular in America and throughout the world. Today on Greatest Sports Legends, host Reggie Jackson takes Phil on a boat ride through Dana Point Harbor as the two discuss the legend of Phil Mahre.
It's nice to be around the water, though.
I love the water. I imagine you're used to being on hard water, right?
Yeah, frozen water. Different substance, you know. All the same, though, in the long run.
Well, let's take a free ride here. I have a couple friends that own this boat. Awesome.
Love to have a ride.
Harry and Maurice are going to take us out and show us around the harbor, take us on a few waves.
Beautiful at that.
Have a little something to drink, take a ride, and talk about your career.
Okay.
Phil began skiing at the age of 6 along with his twin brother Steve. It didn't take long for the twins to begin racing competitively as skiing became a way of life for the Mahre brothers.
Phil, you grew up in a small town in the Cascade Mountains in Washington. What was your first attraction to skiing? You had to ski with your brother. You and him had to be inseparable.
Well, having a twin brother, I think, helped me in a lot of regards. I was probably a person that, had he not been there, I don't know if my success would have been as great as it was.
Really?
I think I would have been successful, but to that extent is beyond.
Tell me why. He helped you as from a youngster all the way up?
Well, I think that when you compete against someone, you'll do anything to beat that person, or basically tear them apart. You know, you'll just dismantle them and you're going to be the king. Whereas with my brother, it was more, if he could do it, I could do it, and I could do it better. And I always had somebody to judge myself against or push myself with. And I think without that, chances are I might have been a little more, you say, oh, I'm beating all these guys by a second. You know, that's enough. And instead, I had to worry about him, and maybe I was beating people by 2 seconds.
With the help of homegrown competitive spirit and sheer racing talent, Phil earned a spot on the U.S. ski team in 1973 at the age of 16 and was joined by Steve a year later. Despite suffering 2 broken legs over the next 2 years, Phil recovered in time to finish 5th in giant slalom at the 1976 Winter Olympics, the best performance by an American skier that year. The next season, Phil won his first World Cup race in just his second year of international competition. And skiing fans around the world realized that by 1977, they were witnessing the emergence of a superstar on the slopes.
It was really funny because that year, the previous year, I'd had a pretty good season. And we came into the next year, and you don't know where your training is at. You know, you've been training all summer, and you come into the first races, and that's where I guess I had my first, you get butterflies. After the first race, everything kind of calms down because you know where you're at. And the first race of the season was not a World Cup race, was actually a World Series race, and I think I was 3 seconds out the first run. And I just went, oh God.
3 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, which is an eternity. And I was like, oh man, is this gonna be a long year? You know, I was really just blown away. The next run, everything clicked. I won the run to finish third in the race. Went to the next race, won both runs to win the race. And the next day was third in the World Cup race. And I knew that if I just really put myself in the right positions and worked really hard, that I could be the best in the world in skiing.
Over the next 2 years, Phil proved to be a man of his word, as he finished in the top 3 in the overall World Cup standings in both seasons. Then in 1979, Mahre broke his left leg in a fall at Lake Placid. The injury threatened Phil's career, but he battled back to lead the U.S. ski team into the 1980 Olympic Games. Skiing with an ankle held together by several screws, Phil captured the silver medal in the slalom, the first American medal in Olympic men's skiing in nearly 20 years. But 1980 proved to be a season of mixed emotions for the United States top skier.
1980 was very sweet in the sense that I won a silver medal coming back from the injury. I was third overall in the World Cup that year, coming back from that injury, and proved to myself that I could be one of the best in the world, but I was really tired of skiing. You know, 9-10 months a year, you know, ski, and took a whole summer off, didn't ski all summer, and came back and had the best 4 years of my career after that.
The 1980s would be a decade of great success for Phil Mahre, as he attempted to stake his claim as the best skier in the world.
During the 80-81 season World Cup circuit, you become one of the most well-known names around the world, recognized as one of the top skiers. Yet in your own country, here at home, people don't know you that well. Did it bother you?
Not really. Actually, it's kind of nice. I think that, you know, for most sports people or just celebrities in general, if they could walk around without being hassled by people, they'd probably really enjoy it. And that's the one thing that was so nice. I come to this country and I could go anywhere and not be hassled, whereas in Europe it was difficult to go outside. You know, if you went...
Really?
Yeah, if you wanted to go, just go get a newspaper or something, or a magazine to read, you know, you'd have to stop and sign autographs, and if you stopped to sign one, then everybody was on to you. And so it's just like duck in and out of corners here and there and kind of, you know, weasel your way around. But I don't know, I enjoy meeting people, talking to people, but only, you know, a few at a time. I'd hate to have, you know, 100 or 200 people, you know, mobbing you all at once.
Phil's popularity among skiing fans was unique, considering that Americans have historically had limited success in the sport. But with an Olympic medal under his belt, Mahre felt confident that the 1980-81 World Cup season would be a fruitful one. The grueling 4-month campaign was a strong test of wills for the young American, but Phil persevered and found himself on the verge of winning his first Cup title entering the last race of the year.
Came to the last race of the season as who was going to win the World Cup. I had to be third or better, and the day before the race, I went out and played basketball for about 3.5-4 hours. I had blisters on the body. Oh, it was really stupid. I went to bed that night. I was going to be sore the next day. I knew, because just basketball and skiing, it's a little bit different motions. I had blisters on my feet. I was like, God, the most important race of the season is tomorrow.
That's called youth.
Yeah, it's stupidity.
Phil was able to overcome this unforeseen obstacle to finish second in the season finale, as he won America's first ever World Cup championship and earned the title of the world's best ski racer. As the defending World Cup champion, Phil Mahre entered the next season as the favorite to regain his title. His main competitor would be Ingemar Stenmark, Sweden's three-time Cup winner. But as the year progressed, the battle between the two rivals became no contest. Phil captured the overall championship by mid-season and finished the campaign with both the slalom and giant slalom titles. With 2 straight World Cups to his credit, Mahre was now being compared to Stenmark as one of the all-time greats in skiing history.
You're now one of the best skiers in the world, and your number one rival, Ingemar Stenmark, is the guy that you're going to go after head-to-head for the next few years. Describe your style versus his.
He to me was the best technical skier that ever graced the sport of skiing.
Really?
Probably to this day still is, and he didn't make mistakes. Everybody else made little mistakes, and therefore he always won.
He was
technically perfect, exactly. And I was more of a rogue skier, kind of just hell-bent for leather, as you stated. I took a lot of chances and was a lot more powerful in a sense. Used a lot more just brute force to get things done.
In his quest for a 3rd straight World Cup, Phil Mahre would use much of his physical and mental strength to help keep his mind on the slopes. By the midpoint of the 1982-83 season, Phil had struggled to 17th place in the overall Cup standings. He was also being criticized for not competing in Super G, a new form of racing that combined downhill and giant slalom and provided an opportunity to earn vital Cup points. Mahre was determined to put all this behind him after the new year, and he did just that as he vaulted his way to the top of the Cup standings in February and clinched his 3rd title the following month. Phil Mahre had now won 3 World Cup championships and had become a living legend in the skiing world.
Tell me, how do you feel after the 3rd title, and how do you feel after really becoming something special in the world of sports?
Well, I think my first World Cup title was, I guess, a dream come true in a sense. My second one was really icing on the cake, and was probably the one that I felt the best about, because everybody said that first one had to be a fluke and he'll never win another one again. But the third one, I guess, in so many ways was bittersweet, in the sense that everybody said there's no way he'll ever win a World Cup title without running Super G, and then I did. So they all had their special, I guess, traits or their special moments. It's funny, I don't really feel any different than anybody else. I just happen to be very successful in a sport, and I guess the key being that I started at a very young age. I had all the opportunities given to me and I made the most of them.
Phil, your 3 World Cup titles in the early 80s, you're skiing great to help make you a legend in the sport of skiing worldwide. Tell me, why did you dominate the sport so much? What was it about you that made you so special as a skier?
Well, I think first off, in the 80s, I had a great coach, I guess, bringing me up, my career up to that point. And secondly was really, I think that everything kind of fell together for me in the 80s. There were some rule changes that were brought about, which enabled me to partake in downhill as well as slalom and giant slalom and score extra points. And because of that, I was enabled me to win 3 World Cup titles. And had they not changed the rules, I would have only won 1. And I wouldn't have been the dominant force that I was.
After having accomplished more than any American ski racer before him, Phil Mahre decided that the 1983-84 World Cup season would be his last. But before he retired, Phil set his sights on the 1984 Winter Olympics in Yugoslavia, where he hoped to win a gold medal. Despite having a lackluster year on the Cup circuit, Mahre performed brilliantly in Sarajevo and captured gold in the slalom. His closest competitor was his twin brother Steve, who earned a silver medal. For Phil Mahre, it was a classic ending to a storybook skiing career.
A lot of people say, what's it like to win a gold medal? And my first reaction is kind of anticlimactic. I went there to win, I didn't go there to lose. And so when you win, you're in the finish area and you're going like, well, it's just another win, you know, it's not a big deal. But when you go to the award ceremony and that medal's put around your neck, your national anthem's played, and your flag goes to the highest point on the flagpoles there, all of a sudden, it's just not you. Throughout my career, I always raced for me. I didn't do it for a coach or my family or anything. It was just selfish, me. And all of a sudden, everybody was there. My coaches were there, my family were there. Everybody that supported me throughout my career was all of a sudden standing on the victory podium with me. And all of a sudden, it becomes very, very emotional, and you realize there's a lot more involved than just you. And I had to thank a lot of people that supported me throughout my career for enabling me to, I guess, reach the goal or a dream of my life.
For all of his racing successes, Phil will be the first to credit his twin brother Steve with helping him along the way. In fact, if it wasn't for Phil's skiing accomplishments, Steve Mahre could very well be considered America's greatest skier. Steve earned a gold medal at the 1982 World Championships along with his silver medal at Sarajevo, and helped make the Mahre brothers a tough team to beat.
How have you guys shared your career or his career? Have you intertwined together?
We're almost inseparable. It seems we have a best friend relationship, but everything we do, we've always done as a pair. And we're just more marketable that way. If you ask people, you know, who is Phil Mahre, who is Steve Mahre as an individual, most people would have a hard time telling you. But if you say Phil and Steve Mahre, twin brothers, most people will put together that you were a great American skier.
4 years after retiring from international competition, Phil returned to the slopes in 1988 on the pro circuit. Despite having been away from the sport for so long, Mahre soon proved that he hadn't lost his touch. He captured the World Pro Slalom title in his first season on the tour, and served notice that he was still one of the best skiers around.
A lot of people have that question, can you be competitive after 4 years away? I said, well, if I don't win out of the box, I will figure out a way to win. And Steve won. Yeah, really. But Steve won the first race we entered as pros, and I was second to him. And we went on from there. I won the next one, and it just snowball effect. I think I won 10 races in my first season as a pro after taking 4 years off. And I think I had all of maybe 14 days training in gates prior to my first pro race. So skiing to me is like walking. I don't really have to think about it. It just happens.
Phil Mahre, the ultimate skiing champion. Phil Mahre's return to ski racing in the late 1980s was a welcome sight for sports fans, but not for his fellow skiers. Mahre won his second straight World Pro Slalom crown during the 1989-90 season, adding yet another honor to his long list of skiing successes. With Olympic medals and World Cups already adorning his trophy case, Phil has more than left his mark on the sport. But this great competitor will also be remembered for his willingness to forego conventional methods in order to excel on his own terms.
You know, I went out and did it my way. I played by the rules, but I did it my way in the sense that if I didn't want to ski, I didn't ski. If I wanted to ski, I skied. And I think that because I did it my way, I was successful. Had I had to do it their way, chances are I would have regretted it, and I wouldn't have been as successful as I was.
Phil, during your career, I've got to say that you provided some incredible moments on television during the Olympics, during World Cup titles. But the thing that's very special to me, and I think all of American fans of winter sports, is that you really put skiing on the map. You gave skiing respectability in this country. I'd like to thank you for coming down to the Dana Point Resort and letting us have an inside look at your career on Greatest Sports Legends.
Thank you, Reggie.